Good morning and welcome back to Reading Wikis for You, where we read the wiki articles for you. And today we're going to be continuing our look at the teams of the National Football League by taking a look at the Philadelphia Eagles. So sit back and while I'm reading, don't forget, drop a comment down below. Let me know what articles you'd like to see next. I'm happy to take suggestions. So with that out of the way, let's get started. The Philadelphia Eagles are a professional American football team based in Philadelphia. The Eagles compete in the National Football League as a member of the National Football Conference East Division. The team plays its home games at Lincoln Financial Field in the South Philadelphia Sports Complex. The franchise was established in 1933 as a replacement for the bankrupt Frankford Yellow Jackets when a group led by Bert Bell secured the rights to an NFL franchise in Philadelphia. Since their formation, the Eagles have appeared in the playoffs 31 times, won 16 division titles, including 13 in the NFC East, appeared in 4 pre-merger NFL championship games, winning 3 of them, 1948, 49, and 60, and appeared in 5 Super Bowls, winning Super Bowls 52 and 59. The Philadelphia Eagles rank among the best teams in the NFL for attendance and have sold out every home game continuously since the 1999 season. The Eagles are owned by Jeffrey Lurie, who bought the team in 1994 for $185 million. In December 2024, the Eagles became one of the first teams in the NFL to sell an ownership stake to outside investors. The deal sold 8% of the franchise at a valuation of $8.3 billion. History: NFL in Philadelphia, 1899 to 1931. The Frankfurt Athletic Association was organized in May 1899 in the parlor of the Suburban Club. The cost of purchasing a share in the association was $10. However, there also were contributing memberships ranging from $1 to $2.50, made available to the general public. The association was a community-based, nonprofit organization of local residents and businesses. In keeping with its charter, which stated that all profits shall be donated to charity, all of the team's excess income was donated to local charitable institutions. The original Frankfurt Athletics Association apparently disbanded prior to the 1909 football season. Several of the original players from the 1899 football team kept the team together, and they became known as the Loyola Athletic Club. In keeping with the Yellow Jackets tradition, they carried the Frankfurt name again in 1912 to become the Frankfurt Athletic Association. In the early 1920s, the Frankfurt Athletic Association's Yellow Jackets gained a reputation as being one of the best independent football teams in the nation. In 1922, Frankfurt absorbed the Philadelphia City champion team, the Union Quakers of Philadelphia. That year, Frankfurt captured the unofficial championship of Philadelphia. During the 1922 and 23 seasons, the Yellow Jackets compiled a 6-2-1 record against teams from the National Football League. This led to the association being granted an NFL franchise in 1924, thus becoming the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets. In spite of winning the NFL championship in 1926, midway through the 1931 season, the Yellow Jackets went bankrupt and were forced to cease operations. Bell and Ray era, 1933 to 1940. After more than a year of searching for a suitable replacement for the Yellow Jackets in the lucrative Philadelphia market, the National Football League granted an expansion franchise to an ownership group headed by Bert Bell and Lou Ray, who were also awarded the liquidated assets of the defunct Yellow Jackets organization. The Bell-Ray group had to pay an entry fee of $3,500, or roughly $67,000 in inflation-adjusted 2022 dollars, and assumed a total debt of $11,000. The Yellow Jackets owed to 3 other NFL franchises. Drawing inspiration from the Blue Eagle logo of the National Recovery Administration, a centerpiece of President Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal policies, Bell and Ray named their new franchise the Philadelphia Eagles. While it could seem as if the Yellow Jackets simply rebranded as the Eagles, both the Eagles organization and the NFL officially regard the teams as 2 separate entities. Not only was there no Philadelphia NFL team for a season and a half, but almost no players from the 1931 Yellow Jackets appeared on the Eagles' first roster. In the 1933 NFL season, the Eagles were one of 3 teams, along with the Pittsburgh Pirates, now the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the now defunct Cincinnati Reds, to join the NFL as expansion teams. Ray became the Eagles' first head coach after being persuaded to assume the position by Bell, his former teammate at Penn. The Eagles originally intended to play their home games at Shibb Park, which was the home of the Philadelphia Athletics professional baseball in Philadelphia. When negotiations for use of Shibb Park fell through, however, the Eagles struck a deal with the Athletics' crosstown rival, the Philadelphia Phillies, to begin playing at the Baker Bowl. The Eagles played their first game on October 15, 1933 against the New York Giants at the Polo Grounds in New York City, and lost the game 56-0. The Eagles struggled over the course of their first decade, never winning more than 4 games in any of their first 10 seasons. The best finish was in 1934, the second season for the Eagles, when they tied for third in the East. The Eagles' early rosters largely consisted of former Penn, Temple, and Villanova players who played for the Eagles for a few years before going on to do other things. In 1935, Bell proposed an annual college draft to equalize talent across the league. The draft was a revolutionary concept in professional sports. Having teams select players in inverse order of their finish in the standings, a practice still followed today, strove to increase fan interest by guaranteeing that even the worst teams would have the opportunity for annual infusions of the best college talent. Between 1927, when the NFL changed from a sprawling Midwestern-based association to a narrower major market league, and 1934, 3 teams, the Chicago Bears, New York Giants, and Green Bay Packers, won all but one title with the exception of the Providence Steamroller, which won in 1928. By 1936, the Eagles suffered significant financial losses and were sold through a public auction. Bert Bell was the only bidder and became the sole owner of the team. Ray refused a reduction in his salary and left the team. Bell assumed the head coaching position and led the team to a record of 1-11, last place in the league. From 1936 to 1939, the Eagles played at Municipal Stadium in South Philadelphia. In 1940, Bell balked at a 66% rent increase plus 10% of the gate receipts proposed by the city of Philadelphia for the use of the municipal stadium and signed a lease for Shibb Park, which was renamed Connie Mack Stadium in 1954. At Connie Mack Stadium, the Eagles were also able to play night games since lights were installed at the stadium the year before. In the 1941 season, the Eagles played their home opener at Municipal Stadium and then moved to Shibb Park. To accommodate football at Shibb Park during the winter, management erected stands in right field, parallel to 20th Street. Some 20 feet high, these east stands included 20 rows of seats. The goalposts stood along the first base line, and in left field, the uncovered east stands enlarged the park's capacity to over 39,000, but the Eagles rarely drew more than 25 to 30,000. The Eagles finished the 1937 season 2-8-1 and continued to struggle over the next 3 seasons. Thompson, Woolman, and the Happy Hundred Era, 1941 to 1969. In December 1940, Bell intervened to stop the sale of Art Rooney's Steelers to Alexis Thompson, and Rooney then acquired half of Bell's interest in the Eagles. In a series of events known as the Pennsylvania Polka, Rooney and Bell exchanged their entire Eagles roster and their territorial rights to Philadelphia to Thompson for his entire Steelers roster and his rights in Pittsburgh. Rooney provided assistance to Bell by rewarding him with a 20% commission on the sale of the Steelers. Bell became the Steelers' head coach, and Rooney became the Steelers' general manager. Greasy Neal years. After assuming ownership, Thompson promptly hired Greasy Neal as the team's head coach. During the first years under Neal, the Eagles' struggles continued, and they finished the 1941 season with a 2-8-1 record. In the 1942 season, there was no improvement as the team finished the season 2-9. Steagles, 1943. In 1943, with player shortages stemming from the U.S. entry engagement in World War II, it became difficult to fill the roster, and the team merged with the Steelers to form the Phil Pitt Combine, known as the Steagles. Greasy Neal continued to coach the team along with Steelers head coach Walt Kiesling. The team finished the 1943 season with a 5-4-1 record, and the merger, which was never intended to be a permanent arrangement, was dissolved at the season's end. In 1944, the Eagles, led by head coach Greasy Neal and running back Steve Van Buren, had their first winning season in team history. After 2 second-place finishes in 1945 and 1946, the team reached the NFL championship game for the first time in 1947. Van Buren, Pete Pios, and Bosch Pritchard fought valiantly, but the young team lost to the Chicago Cardinals 28-21 at Comiskey Park in Chicago. NFL champions, 1948. Undeterred, the young team rebounded in 1948 to return to the NFL championship game. With home field advantage and a blinding snowstorm on their side, the Eagles won their first NFL championship against the Chicago Cardinals by a score of 7-0. The only score came in the fourth quarter when Steve Van Buren ran for a 5-yard touchdown. Because of the severe weather, few fans witnessed the joyous occasion. Prior to the start of the 1949 season, the Eagles were sold by Thompson to a syndicate of 100 buyers, known as the Happy 100, each of whom paid $3,000 for a share of the team. While the leader of the Happy 100 was noted Philadelphia businessman James P. Clark, one unsung investor was Leonard Toews. NFL champions, 1949. In 1949, the Eagles returned to the NFL championship game for a third consecutive year. The Eagles were favored by a touchdown and won 14-0 for their second consecutive title game shutout. Running back Steve Van Buren rushed for 196 yards on 31 carries for the Eagles, and their defense held the Rams to just 21 yards on the ground. Chuck Bednarik was selected as the first overall pick in the 1949 NFL Draft. An All-American linebacker from the University of Pennsylvania, Bednarik would go on to become one of the greatest and most beloved players in Eagles history. In 1950, the Eagles opened the season against the AAFC champion Cleveland Browns, who along with the two other AAFC franchises had just joined the NFL. The Eagles were expected to make short work of the Browns, who were widely considered to be the dominant team in a lesser league. However, the Browns lit up the Eagles' vaunted defense for 487 total yards, including 246 passing yards in a 35-10 rout. The Eagles never recovered from the loss and finished the 1950 season 6-6. Following the 1950 season, Greasy Neal retired and was replaced by Bo McMillin. 2 games into the 1951 season, McMillan was forced to retire following a diagnosis of terminal stomach cancer. Wayne Milner finished out the season before being replaced by Jim Trimble. While the remnants of the great 1940s teams managed to stay competitive for the first few years of the decade, and younger players like Bobby Walston and Sonny Jurgensen occasionally provided infusions of talent, the team lacked the total talent necessary for true greatness during most of the 1950s. After the 1957 season, the Eagles moved from Connie Mack Stadium to Franklin Field at the University of Pennsylvania. Franklin Field had a vastly expanded seating capacity for the Eagles. While Connie Mack Stadium had a capacity of 39,000, Franklin Field's capacity was 60,000. In 1969, the grass field at Franklin Field was replaced by AstroTurf, making Franklin Field the first NFL stadium to use artificial turf. Buck Shaw years, 1958 to 1960. In 1958, the Eagles took several steps to improve, hiring Buck Shaw as head coach and acquiring quarterback Norm Van Brocklin in a trade with the Los Angeles Rams. During the 1959 season, the team showed flashes of talent and finished in second place in the Eastern Division. Former Eagles owner and co-founder Bert Bell had become NFL commissioner and attended the Eagles game on October 11th at Franklin Field against the Pittsburgh Steelers, a team Bell used to own. Bell refused the box seats that the Eagles reserved for him and purchased his own tickets to sit with the fans. During the fourth quarter, while sitting behind the end zone, Bell suffered a heart attack and died later that day. NFL champions, 1960. The Eagles' 1960 season remains one of the most celebrated years in team history. Shaw, Van Brocklin, and Bednarik, each in their last season before retirement, led an Eagles team more notable for its grit than its talent. One observer later quipped that the team had, quote, nothing but a championship, unquote, to its first division title since 1949. The team was aided by their 2 Pro Bowl receivers, wide receiver Tommy McDonald, who later wrote an autobiography titled They Pay Me to Catch Footballs, and tight end Pete Retzlaff. On November 20th, 1960, at Yankee Stadium in the Bronx, Bednarik launched a tackle against New York Giants running back Frank Gifford, who has come to be known as the Hit, which has come to be known as the Hit, a tackle that is routinely ranked as one of the hardest and most vicious hits in NFL history. With the game tied 10-10 in the fourth quarter, Gifford caught a short pass over the middle and was immediately hit by Bednarik with a clothesline tackle so hard that it dropped Gifford to the ground unconscious. Gifford was removed from the field on a stretcher and transported to a local hospital by ambulance where he remained for 10 days. Gifford was diagnosed with a deep concussion that resulted in his retirement from the game for 18 months. On the 100th anniversary of the NFL's founding, the NFL ranked Bednarik's tackle the 44th greatest play in league history. On December 26, 1960, one of the coldest days in recorded Philadelphia history, the Eagles faced Vince Lombardi's Green Bay Packers in the 1960 NFL Championship game and dealt the formidable Lombardi the sole championship game loss of his storied career. Bednarik lined up at a center on offense and at linebacker on defense. Fittingly, the game ended as Bednarik tackled a struggling Jim Taylor and refused to allow him to stand until the last seconds had ticked away. Van Brocklin came to Philadelphia and agreed to play through 1960 with an understanding that upon his retirement as player, he would succeed Shaw as head coach. Ownership, however, opted to promote assistant coach Nick Skorich instead, and Van Broecklyn quit the organization in a fit of pique, becoming head coach of the expansion Minnesota Vikings. Backup quarterback Sonny Jurgensen became the Eagles' starter for the 1961 season. They finished a half game behind the New York Giants for first place in the Eastern Conference standings with a 10-4 record. Despite the on-field success, however, the franchise was in turmoil. The 1962 team, decimated by injury, managing only 3 wins, and were embarrassed at home in a 49-0 loss to the Packers. The off-field chaos continued through 1963 as the 65 shareholders remaining from the original Happy 100 sold the team to Jerry Woolman, a 36-year-old millionaire Washington developer who outbid local bidders for the team, paying an unprecedented $5.505 million for control of the club. In 1964, Woolman hired former Cardinals and Washington Redskins coach Joe Kuharich to a 15-year contract. Over the next 5 seasons, the team failed to make the playoffs, and the failures of the team over this period were highlighted by the Santa Claus incident, when fans pelted a Santa Claus with snowballs during a halftime Christmas pageant. The team had only one winning season in 1966, finishing second in the NFL Eastern Conference. The Eagles lost to the Baltimore Colts 20-14 in the postseason's third-place consolation game, the Playoff Bowl, which was held at the Orange Bowl in Miami. The Eagles finished 6-7-1 in 1967. In the following season, the Eagles fell even further in the standings, recording a 2-12 record in 1968. Leonard Toews era, 1969 to 1984. In 1969, Leonard Toews bought the team from Woolman for $16.155 million, the equivalent of $139 million today, representing a record then for the highest amount ever paid for a professional sports franchise. Toews' first official act was to fire coach Joe Kuharich after a disappointing 24-41-1 record during his 5-year reign. Toews then named former Eagles wide receiver Pete Retzlaff as the team's general manager and Jerry Williams as its new head coach. With the merger of the NFL and the NFL and AFL in 1970, the Eagles were placed in the NFC East division with the New York Giants, Washington Redskins, and Dallas Cowboys. The Eagles' heated rivalry with the Giants is the oldest of the NFC East rivalries, dating back to 1933, and is often cited as one of the best rivalries in the NFL. 1970 was also the last season for the Eagles at Franklin Field. The team finished the first post-merger season in last place in their division at 3-10-1. In 1971, the Eagles moved to Veterans Stadium, which had just been constructed and was initially acclaimed as a triumph of ultra-modern sports engineering. After a 3-10-1 record in 1970, the 3 consecutive blowout losses to Cincinnati, Dallas, and San Francisco to open the 1971 season, Williams was fired and replaced by assistant coach Ed Kayat, a defensive lineman on the Eagles' 1960 NFL championship team. Williams and Kayat were hampered by Retzlaff's decision to trade longtime starting quarterback Norm Snead to the Minnesota Vikings in early 1971, leaving the Eagles a choice between journeyman Pete Liskey and raw Rick Arrington. Kayat lost his first 2 games but won 6 of the season's last 9, thanks largely to the efforts of the Eagles' defense, led by all-pro safety Bill Bradley, who led the NFL in interceptions, 11, and interception return yardage, 248. The team regressed in 1972 to finish 2-11-1, and Kayat was released. The 2 wins, both on the road, proved to be surprises, however. Philadelphia beat the Kansas City Chiefs, which had had the best record of the AFC the year before, 21-20, and the Houston Oilers 18-17 on 6 field goals by kicker Tom Dempsey. The latter game had been called the Johnny Rodgers Bowl because the loser, in finishing last in the league, would gain the first overall pick in the 1973 NFL Draft, which was then presumed to be Nebraska wingback Johnny Rodgers, the Heisman Trophy winner. With their loss, the Oilers got first pick and took University of Tampa defensive end John Matusik, who later faced Philadelphia in Super Bowl 15 with the second overall pick. The Eagles selected USC tight end Charlie Young. Kayat was replaced by offensive guru Mike McCormack for the 1973 season, aided by the skills of quarterback Roman Gabriel and towering young wide receiver Harold Carmichael. They managed to infuse a bit of vitality into a previously moribund offense. New general manager Jim Murray also began to add talent on the defensive side of the line, most notably through the addition of future Pro Bowl linebacker Bill Bergey in 1974. Overall, however, the team was still mired in mediocrity. McCormack was fired after a 4-10 1975 season. Dick Vermeil years, 1976 to 1982. In 1976, Dick Vermeil was hired from UCLA to coach the struggling Eagles, who managed to only one winning season from 1962 to 1975. Vermeil faced numerous obstacles as he attempted to rejuvenate a franchise that had not seriously contended in well over a decade. Despite the team's young talent and Gabriel's occasional flashes of brilliance, the Eagles finished 1976 with the same 4-10 record as in 1975. In 1977, the first seeds of hope began to emerge. The team obtained hard-throwing quarterback Ron Jaworski in a trade from the Los Angeles Rams in exchange for popular tight end Charles Young. The defense, led by Berge and defensive coordinator Marion Campbell, began earning a reputation as one of the hardest hitting in the league. 1978 saw one of the great moments in Eagles history, the miracle at the Meadowlands when Herman Edwards returned a fumble by Giants quarterback Joe Pisarick for a touchdown with 20 seconds left in the game, resulting in a 19-17 Eagles victory. The Eagles would edge into the playoffs with a 9-7 season. Young running back Wilbert Montgomery became the first Eagle since Steve Van Buren to exceed 1,000 yards in a season. In 1979, the Eagles tied for first place with an 11-5 record, as Montgomery shattered team rushing records with a total of 1,512 yards. In 1980, the team dominated the NFC, facing its chief nemesis, the Dallas Cowboys, in the NFC Championship game. The game was played in cold conditions before faithful fans at Veterans Stadium. Led by an outstanding rushing performance by Montgomery, whose long cutback touchdown run in the first half is one of the most memorable in Eagles history, and a gutsy game from fullback Leroy Harris, who scored the Eagles' only other touchdown that day. The Birds earned a berth in Super Bowl 15 with a 20-7 victory. The Eagles traveled to New Orleans for Super Bowl 15, where they were heavily favored over the Oakland Raiders, who had squeaked into the playoffs as a wild card team. Things did not go the Eagles' way, beginning with Toews' imprudent decision to bring comedian Don Rickles into the pregame locker room to lighten the mood. Jaworski's first pass was intercepted by Ron Martin, setting up an Oakland touchdown. Later in the first quarter, a potential game-tying 40-yard touchdown pass to Rodney Parker was nullified by an illegal motion penalty. The final score was 27-10. Journeyman quarterback Jim Plunkett was named the game's MVP. The team got off to a promising start in the 1981 season by winning their first 6 games. They ended up 10-6 to earn a wild card berth. However, their hopes to repeat as NFC champs were dashed in the wild card round by the New York Giants, who won 27-21. After the Eagles finished 3-6 in the strike-shortened 1982 season, Vermeil quit the team, citing burnout. Defensive coordinator Marion Campbell replaced Vermeil as head coach. Campbell had helped to popularize the bend-don't-break defensive strategy in the 1970s. Philadelphia struggled through the mid-1980s, marked by flagging fan participation. The team failed to make the playoffs in 1983 and 84. The team nearly moved to Phoenix, Arizona at the end of the 1984 season. Norman Braman era, 1985 to 1993. In 1985, Toews was forced to sell the Eagles to Norman Braman and Ed Leibowitz, highly successful automobile dealers from Florida, for a reported $65 million, equal to $190 million today, to pay off his more than $25 million in gambling debts at Atlantic City casinos. The team again struggled during the 1985 season, and Campbell was fired after Week 16 to be replaced by assistant head coach, defensive backs coach Fred Bruni for the season's last game. In the 1985 supplemental draft, the Eagles acquired the rights to the Memphis Showboats elite pass rusher Reggie White. Buddy Ryan years, 1986 to 1990. In 1986, the arrival of head coach Buddy Ryan and his fiery attitude sparked team performance and ignited the fan base. Immediately infusing the team with his hard-as-nails attitude, the Eagles quickly became known for their tough defense and tougher attitudes. Ryan began rejuvenating the team by releasing several aging players, including Ron Jaworski. Randall Cunningham took his place, and despite a 5-10-1 season, began showing considerable promise. 1987 saw another strike, which shortened the season by 1 game. The substitutes who had filled in for the Strikers performed poorly and were crushed 41-22 by the Dallas Cowboys. After the strike, the regular Eagles' 1987 team won a 37-20 revenge game against Dallas. The season record was 7-8, of which 3 games had been played by substitutes. The Eagles reached the playoffs in 1988, but lost to the Chicago Bears, the team that Ryan had helped lead to a Super Bowl XX victory as defensive coordinator. The game became known as the Fog Bowl due to the inclement weather during the game. The Eagles lost 20-12. The following 2 years would see playoffs appearances as well, but the team never made it past the first round. This failure was very frustrating to Eagles fans as the team was widely regarded as among the most talented in the NFL. On offense, the Eagles were led by quarterback Cunningham, one of the most exciting players of his generation, tight end Keith Jackson, and running back Keith Byars. The defense is commonly acknowledged as among the greatest in league history and as the best to never win a championship. The two 1989 matches with Dallas were known as the Bounty Bowls. Both were won easily by the Eagles. The Cowboys finished 1-15 that year, and were marked by Ryan insulting new Cowboys coach Jimmy Johnson by placing a bounty on their kicker, and by Eagles fans throwing snowballs at him at Veterans Stadium. On November 12, 1990, during a Monday Night Football game at the Vet, the Eagles defeated the Washington Redskins by a score of 28-14, as the defense scored 3 of the team's 4 touchdowns. This game, more lopsided than its score would indicate, was subsequently labeled as the body bag game in reference to the number of injuries Eagles players inflicted on the Redskins and the physically tough play of the Eagles in the game. In the game, the Eagles knocked out the starting Washington quarterback and then seriously injured his replacement. Running back Brian Mitchell, who would later be signed by the Eagles, was called upon to finish the game as the Redskins quarterback. Washington returned to Philadelphia in the first round of the playoffs to defeat the Eagles 20-6, ending their season. Ryan was fired on January 7, 1991, and was replaced by offensive coordinator Rich Kotite. This team started the 1991 season with the loss of starting quarterback Randall Cunningham due to a knee injury. Backup quarterback Jim McMahon assumed the starting role for the rest of the season, despite having the top-rated defense in the league. The team failed to make the playoffs by finishing third in the NFC East with a record of 10-6. On June 25, 1992, All-Pro defensive tackle Jerome Brown was killed in an automobile accident. The team and fan base dedicated the 1992 season to, quote, bring it home for Jerome, unquote. The team finished second in the NFC East with an 11-5 record to earn a wildcard playoff spot. Kotite led the Eagles to a victory over the New Orleans Saints in the wildcard game, but then fell to the Dallas Cowboys in the divisional round. Another blow to the team was the loss of all-time sacks leader Reggie White to free agency in the offseason. Among the team's offensive stars during that period were quarterback Randall Cunningham, tight end Keith Jackson, and running back Herschel Walker. But what was known as the Gang Green defense, led by Reggie White, Jerome Brown, Clyde Simmons, Seth Joyner, Wes Hopkins, Mike Golick, Byron Evans, Eric Allen, Andre Waters, and Mark McMillan, defined the team. In 1993, Kotite's Eagles fell apart after a promising start to miss the playoffs, ending the regular season 8-8. Jeffrey Lurie era, 1994 to present. By 1994, team owner Norman Brayman had become largely unpopular among local fans and a polarizing presence in the front office. Jeffrey Lurie bought the Eagles on May 6, 1994 for an estimated $185 million. In Lurie's first season as owner in 1994, the team went 7-9 and again missed the playoffs. Rich Kotite was fired and replaced by San Francisco 49ers defensive coordinator Ray Rhodes, who successfully lured 49ers star Ricky Watters to join the team as a free agent. In 1995, Rhodes' first season, the Eagles got off to a slow start by losing 3 of their first 4 games, but subsequently rebounded to finish with a 10-6 record and a playoff spot. In the wild card round, the Eagles, playing at home, overwhelmed the Detroit Lions 58-37, with 31 of Philadelphia's points coming in the second quarter. However, the Eagles were again eliminated in the next round by the Cowboys by a score of 30-11. This would be the Randall Cunningham's last game as an Eagle. Cunningham scored the only touchdown of the game and the last Eagles postseason touchdown for 6 years. 1995 marked the end of Cunningham's tenure as starting quarterback. Rhodes benched Cunningham in favor of Rodney Peete, leading to friction between the two. Earlier rumors had circulated that Lurie and Rhodes had tried to trade Cunningham to the Arizona Cardinals. However, no such trade materialized, and Cunningham retired shortly after the season. In 1996, the Eagles' uniform colors were changed from the classic Kelly green to a darker midnight green. The team got off to a good start, winning 3 of their first 4 games. However, a Week 5 Monday night game at Veterans Stadium against the rival Cowboys witnessed a season-ending knee injury to Peete, loss of the team's momentum, and the transition to an offense led by Ty Detmer and Waters. While Detmer played well and Waters rushed for 1,411 yards, the season conformed to what had become a familiar pattern: 10-6 record and an early elimination, a 14-0 shutout by the 49ers in the playoffs. In the 1996 NFL Draft, future fan favorite and Hall of Famer Brian Dawkins was chosen in the second round. The continued early playoff exits led fans and local media to cast blame on high-priced free agents Irving Fryer, Waters, Troy Vincent, and Guy McIntyre for not stepping up in big games, especially in the postseason. Rhodes gradually deteriorated under the stress of the job, and players were beginning to grow tired of his brash demeanor and often autocratic coaching style. After a seesaw 6-9-1 campaign in 1997, the bottom fell out in 1998. The Eagles suffered a 3-13 record, their worst since 1972, and were ranked dead last in numerous offensive statistics. Home attendance was declining, a quarterback controversy was deteriorating an already rudderless locker room, and the players had all but tuned out the embattled coaching staff. Left with little choice after a disastrous season, fan revolt, and sagging team morale, Lurie fired Rhodes and hired Green Bay Packers quarterback coach Andy Reid as head coach. Andy Reid years, 1999 to 2012. The Eagles reemerged as a predominant NFL team under the leadership of new head coach Andy Reid, who was hired away from the Green Bay Packers, where he was the Packers' quarterback coach. Reid's first notable step was drafting Syracuse quarterback Donovan McNabb with the second overall pick in the 1999 NFL Draft. The Eagles' awful 1998 season would have entitled the Eagles to the first pick, but it was awarded to the rebooted Cleveland Browns, despite clearing the roster for new talent by releasing unpopular and aging veterans such as Ricky Waters and Irving Fryer. Reid was still a virtual unknown before his rival as head coach, and his appointment was met initially with skepticism among Philadelphia fans. The drafting of McNabb was unpopular with many Eagles fans, many of whom had traveled to Madison Square Garden for the 1999 draft, and booed the selection, believing the Eagles instead should have selected Ricky Williams, a University of Texas running back who had been named the 1998 AP College Player of the Year. The 1999 season was largely a rebuilding year for the Eagles. The team, which routinely sells out its home games in Philadelphia, had two 1999 home games that failed to sell out, resulting in local TV blackouts. Another 6 home games in the 1999 season sold out only because several local small business owners bought the remaining unsold tickets to spare Philadelphia area viewers a television blackout of the game. The Week 5 home game at Veterans Stadium on October 10, 1999 against the Dallas Cowboys represented the last plays of Cowboys wide receiver Michael Irvin's career. In the game, Irvin was driven into the turf by Eagles safety Tim Hawk, which left Irving lying motionless. Some Eagles fans responded with applause, giving further rise to Philadelphia's reputation as unduly aggressive and hostile fans. Irvin was transported from the field by stretcher and then by ambulance to Thomas Jefferson University Hospital. Irvin, who was diagnosed with a potentially threatening cervical spine injury and forced to announce his NFL retirement after the injury, later said the Philadelphia fans were applauding his departure rather than his serious injury. The team finished the season with a record of 5-11. The 2000 regular season opener in Dallas on September 3rd became known in NFL lore as the Pickle Juice Game. Kickoff temperatures in Texas Stadium was 109 degrees Fahrenheit and soared to nearly 120, making it the hottest game in the league history, beating a previous record set in a 1997 Cowboys-Cardinals match in Arizona. The nickname came about because an Eagles trainer had prepared for the predicted heat by having the players drink the juice from jars of dill pickles in order to retain body moisture and stave off cramps and heat exhaustion. The experiment proved successful as the Eagles won 41-14, while multiple Cowboys players had been consigned to the bench, unable to handle the torrid climate, while the Eagles had no players benched. The game was also significant as marking the beginning of Philadelphia's domination of the NFC East. The team finished the season at 11-5, reaching the playoffs as a wild card, which restored fan optimism. But after brushing aside the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 21-3, the Eagles moved to the second round of the playoffs, only to lose 20-10 to the New York Giants. After compiling an 11-5 record in 2001, the Eagles reached the playoffs again, this time at the top of their division. In a near rerun of the previous year, they disposed of the Buccaneers in a 31-9 game. In the second round, the Eagles defeated the Bears 33-19 at Soldier Field. In the NFC Championship game, they were unable to stop the St. Louis Rams, who defeated them 29-24. Despite injuries, McNabb led the Eagles to a 12-4 season in 2002. Once again, they reached the NFC Championship game, but lost at home 27-10 to the eventual Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the last game at Veterans Stadium. In the opening game of the 2003 season, the Eagles were shut out 17-0 by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the first regular season game ever played at their new home, Lincoln Financial Field. Once again, the team went 12-4 for the season and then reached the conference championship game. In doing so, the Eagles became the first team in modern history to get that far in the postseason after having been shut out at home in its first game. They achieved that distinction despite getting only 5 touchdown receptions all year by their wide receivers, which tied the league low since the regular season schedule was lengthened to its present 16 games in 1978. This record would be broken in 2004 when the New York Giants wide receivers caught only 2 touchdown passes. The Eagle receivers went through both September and October without a touchdown catch. The last time an NFL team had done that was in 1945. In the divisional round of the playoffs, the Eagles beat the Green Bay Packers 20-17 in overtime, thanks in part to a late game completion by McNabb to Freddie Mitchell on an iconic play that has come to be known as the 4th and 26. They lost the NFC Championship game to the Carolina Panthers 14-3. Panthers cornerback Ricky Manning Jr. had 3 interceptions in the game. The Eagles actively pursued premier wide receiver Terrell Owens and acquired him in a controversial 3-way deal with the Baltimore Ravens and the San Francisco 49ers on March 16, 2004. The 2004 season began with a bang as Owens caught 3 touchdown passes from McNabb in their season opener against the New York Giants. Owens ended up with exactly 1,200 receiving yards and 14 touchdown receptions, although his season ended prematurely with an ankle injury in a December 19th game against the Dallas Cowboys. The Eagles' 12-7 victory in this game gave them a home field advantage throughout the conference playoffs for the 3rd year in a row. The Eagles tied a record by clinching the NFC East Division crown, their 4th straight, after only their 11th game of the season, matching the mark set by the 1985 Chicago Bears and the 1997 San Francisco 49ers. Their final 2 regular season games thus rendered meaningless. The Eagles sat out most of their first-string players in these games and lost both, yet still finished the season with a 13-3 record. McNabb had his best season to date, passing for 3,875 yards and 31 touchdowns with only 8 interceptions. This made him the first quarterback in NFL history to throw 30 or more touchdown passes and fewer than 10 interceptions in a single regular season. They then began their playoff run with a divisional round at home against the 6th-seeded Minnesota Vikings. The Eagles led from the start and never looked back, as McNabb led a very efficient passing attack, 21 of 33 for 286 yards and 2 touchdowns. Brian Westbrook dominated on the ground with 70 rushing yards, and Freddie Mitchell performed very well on the receiving corps, 5 receptions for 65 yards and a touchdown, as Philadelphia won 27-14, setting up their 4th straight NFC Championship appearance. Facing the Atlanta Falcons, McNabb threw for 180 yards and 2 touchdowns, while also rushing for 32 yards. Westbrook rushed for 96 yards and caught 5 passes for 39, winning the game 27-10. The Eagles advanced to Super Bowl 39, where they faced the New England Patriots. Although McNabb threw 3 touchdown passes and 357 yards in the game, and the score was tied 14-14 going into the 4th quarter, the Patriots outscored the Eagles with 10 straight points. McNabb completed a 30-yard touchdown pass, and the Eagles' defense held the Patriots to a 3-and-out, but a crucial interception with 46 seconds left sealed their fate as the Patriots won 24-21. The team took a step back in 2005 with a 6-10 record, failing to make the playoffs for the first time since the 1999 season. McNabb had played with a sports hernia and a broken thumb, starting 4-2, then losing 3 in a row before he finally succumbed to injury and missed the rest of the season. For obnoxious behavior and a feud with McNabb, Owens was suspended after 7 games and was eventually cut. In 2006, the team lost McNabb 10 games in and went into turmoil. However, Westbrook stepped up, and the Eagles earned their 5th NFC East title under Coach Reed with a 10-6 record. They won the wild card game against the New York Giants, but lost in the divisional round to the New Orleans Saints. The 2007 season would end with the Eagles finishing 8-8 and failing to make the playoffs for a second time in 3 seasons. However, in 2008, the team finished the season with a 9-6-1 record, making the playoffs with a wild card berth. The team upset the Minnesota Vikings in the first round, winning the game 26-14. The team then went on to defeat the defending Super Bowl champions in the New York Giants 23-11 en route to their 6th NFC Championship game. In the NFC Championship game, the Eagles rallied from down 24-6 at halftime to up 25-24 in the 4th quarter, but they lost to the Arizona Cardinals by a score of 32-25 after quarterback Kurt Warner scored a touchdown with just under 3 minutes remaining in regulation. Entering the 2009 season, the Eagles signed quarterback Michael Vick. On December 6, 2009, Andy Reid became the only the 5th coach in NFL history to win 100 or more games with a single team in a single decade. The other four are Tom Landry, Don Shula, Tom Dungy, and Bill Belichick. McNabb finally had a complete receiving core between first-round draft pick Jeremy Maclin, DeSean Jackson's 1,000-yard season, and Brent Selleck ranking among the top 5 tight ends in the league. Without Brian Dawkins, defensive end Trent Cole stepped up and became the dominant force on defense with 12 sacks, earning him his second trip to the Pro Bowl and All-Pro honors. In 2009, the Eagles started 5-4, then won 6 straight. After a shutout by the Dallas Cowboys in Week 17, the Eagles failed to secure a first-round bye, and with a record of 11-5, they were the NFC's 6th seed. In their January 2010 wildcard game, the Eagles played against their divisional foes for the second consecutive week, losing 34-14 to hand Dallas their first playoff win since December 1996. On January 11, 2010, General Manager Tom Heckert Jr. was hired away by the Cleveland Browns. He was replaced by Howie Roseman, who was promoted from Vice President of Player Personnel. On March 5, 2010, Brian Westbrook was cut from the Eagles after 8 seasons with the team. On April 4, 2010, the team traded longtime starting quarterback Donovan McNabb to the Washington Redskins in exchange for a second-round draft pick. Kevin Kolb was immediately named the starter for the 2010 season. But after suffering a concussion in Week 1 against the Packers, Vic took over as the starter. Week 4 saw the return of McNabb to Philadelphia. The Redskins got a touchdown early in the first quarter. After that, both offenses sputtered, and the Eagles had to settle for 2 field goals. But things rapidly fell apart when Vic injured his ribs and chest late in the first quarter, when 2 Redskins defensive backs crushed him from both sides while running near the end zone. Kolb was once again brought out to play, but delivered an uninspiring performance. He managed a touchdown pass in the fourth quarter, but it wasn't enough. A 2-point conversion attempt after the touchdown failed, and Washington won 16-12. In Week 15, the Eagles beat the New York Giants in a stunning upset by overcoming a 21-point deficit in the second half. In the closing seconds of the game, DeSean Jackson returned a punt 65 yards for a touchdown to win 38-31. This became known as the Miracle at the New Meadowlands. Vic led the Eagles to their 6th NFC East division title in 10 seasons. With a record of 10-6, the Eagles clinched the 3rd seed. In the wild card round, the Eagles lost 21-16 to the eventual Super Bowl 15 champion Green Bay Packers. The 2011 season for the Eagles was a major disappointment. The offseason was marred by a lockout that began in March after the NFL's collective bargaining agreement expired, making practices, trades, and free agency impossible. During the draft, the Eagles did comparatively little. After the lockout ended in July, the team embarked on a rash of high-profile FA signings, including free agent signings, including Raiders cornerback Nnamdi Asomugha, Dolphins running back Ronnie Brown, Giants wide receiver Steve Smith, Packers tight end Donald Lee, Titans defensive end Jason Babin, and Packers defensive tackle Cullen Jenkins. Meanwhile, Kevin Kolb, displeased at losing the starting quarterback job to Michael Vick in 2010, was traded to Arizona for Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie. Replacing him as a second stringer was ex-Titans quarterback Vince Young. Young created a lot of hype by calling Philadelphia the Dream Team. The team managed to finish only 8-8 and missed the playoffs. In 2012, the Eagles started off winning 3 of their first 4 games but lost their next 8, which eliminated them from the playoff hunt. They won only 3 of their last 4 games. After a loss to the New York Giants on December 30th, 2012, head coach Andy Reid was fired after 14 seasons with the team. Chip Kelly years, 2013 to 2015. On January 16, 2013, after a 4-12 season, the Eagles brought in University of Oregon head coach Chip Kelly to succeed Reid as head coach. The Philadelphia Eagles named Michael Vick the starting quarterback going into the 2013 with much promise running Chip Kelly's fast-paced spread offense. The 2013 season proved very successful for the Eagles. While a hamstring injury took Michael Vick out after a 1-3 start, his backup Nick Foles led the team to a 10-6 regular season record and its 7th NFC East title in 13 seasons. But the Eagles lost to the New Orleans Saints in the wild card round before throwing his first interception in Week 14. Foles had thrown 19 touchdowns, just one shy of the all-time NFL record of consecutive touchdowns, without an interception to start a season, set earlier in the season by Peyton Manning. Foles also tied Manning for the most touchdown passes in a single game with 7 against the Oakland Raiders, which also made him the youngest player in the NFL history to throw for that many touchdowns in a game. Fullis finished the regular season with 27 touchdown passes and only 2 interceptions, giving him the then best touchdown to interception ratio in NFL history. That record was later broken by Tom Brady in the 2016 season. He also finished with a 109.0 passer rating, or 119.0 passer rating, third highest in league history behind only Aaron Rodgers in 2011 and Peyton Manning in 2004. He was also only the second quarterback in NFL history to have a game in which he topped 400 passing yards and a perfect passer rating. LaShawn McCoy finished his Pro Bowl season as the league's top rusher with 1,607 rushing yards, also a franchise record, and 2,146 total yards from scrimmage, also best in the NFL. As a whole, the Eagles' offense scored 51 touchdowns, most in franchise history, passing the previous season high set back in 1948. Following the 2013 season, the Eagles released Pro Bowl wide receiver Deshaun Jackson due to his poor work ethic and attitude, as well as speculation of his involvement in gang-related activities. The team signed All-Pro safety Malcolm Jenkins to a 3-year contract worth $16.25 million. The Eagles opened the 2014 season winning their first 3 games and making NFL history as the only team ever to trail by 10 or more points in their first 3 games and come back to win. Nick Foles struggled with turnovers but ultimately did well and led the Eagles to a 6-2 record before breaking his collarbone, resulting in his replacement by Mark Sanchez, who outplayed Foles. The Eagles held the divisional title from Week 1 to Week 15 after going 9-3 with a crucial win over the Dallas Cowboys. The Eagles lost their next 3, and a week after losing the NFC East title, they lost an upset against the 3-11 Washington Redskins and were eliminated from playoff contention with the Cowboys' win over the Indianapolis Colts. Following the 2014 season, Chip Kelly was given total control and made some controversial personnel moves. He traded LaShawn McCoy, who had become the team's all-time leading rusher after the 2014 season, for linebacker Kiko Alonso, a player Kelly coached at Oregon who had missed the entire 2014 season. He also cut 10-year veteran and starter Trent Cole, who was still a consistent threat on defense and was second only to legend Reggie White on the Eagles' all-time sack list. He also traded the highly successful Nick Foles for Sam Bradford, who had missed the entire 2014 season with a torn anterior cruciate ligament. Kelly tried to re-sign Jeremy Maclin, who had stepped up as the team's leading wide receiver, but Maclin signed with the Kansas City Chiefs instead. However, the Eagles also acquired league-leading rusher DeMarco Murray, which not only helped the Eagles but hurt their rivals, the Dallas Cowboys. They also obtained Super Bowl champion Byron Maxwell, who left the Seattle Seahawks in free agency to sign a 6-year, $63 million contract. The first 2 games of the 2015 season were dismal as they lost both. Bradford had a poor 2-4 touchdown to interception ratio. Maxwell was constantly beaten by the Atlanta Falcons wide receiver Julio Jones, and Murray was held to 11 yards on 21 carries. After Murray was injured, Ryan Matthews rushed for over 100 yards in a Week 3 win against the New York Jets. Kelly made Murray the unquestioned starter, and although Murray's play improved over the season, he never regained his dominant form and was held to a career-low average of 3.6 yards per carry. On December 29, 2015, with 1 game left in the season, head coach Chip Kelly was released by the Eagles after a 6-9 record. Offensive coordinator Pat Shurmur was named interim head coach for the final game against the rival New York Giants, which Shurmur won 35-30. Doug Peterson years 2016 to 2020. The Eagles hired Kansas City Chiefs offensive coordinator Doug Peterson as their next head coach on January 18, 2016. Peterson had been with the Chiefs for the preceding 3 years after having spent the 4 seasons before those with the Eagles. He served as a quality control assistant coach for the Eagles in 2009 and 10 before being promoted to the quarterbacks coach for the 2011 and 12 season. He had been praised for his work with the Chiefs quarterback Alex Smith over the prior several seasons, particularly 2015, as the Chiefs moved into the top 10 in scoring offense. At the end of the 2015 season, the Eagles were slated for the 13th overall pick in the 2016 NFL Draft. They traded that pick, Byron Maxwell, and Kiko Alonso to the Miami Dolphins for the 8th overall pick. Later, they traded the 8th overall pick, their 3rd and 4th round picks, a 2017 first round pick, and a 2018 second round pick to the Cleveland Browns for the 2nd overall pick and a 2017 4th round pick. They used the 2nd overall pick to draft North Dakota State quarterback Carson Wentz. On September 3rd, 2016, the Eagles traded starting quarterback Sam Bradford to the Minnesota Vikings, who had lost Teddy Bridgewater for the season, for a 2017 first-round pick and a 2018 fourth-round pick. Following the trade, the Eagles named Wentz the starting quarterback for Week 1 of the 2016 season. First-time head coach Peterson led the Eagles to a 3-0 record to start the season. His rookie quarterback started with 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, and over 255 yards per game. After a Week 4 bye, they lost 4 out of the next 5 games, including losses to every team in their division. They also lost right tackle Lane Johnson to a 10-game suspension following the Week 5 loss against the Lions, which damaged Carson Wentz's hot start. In those 4 defeats, their average margin of loss was just under 5 points. Peterson and the Eagles won just 3 of their final 7 games, although Wentz started off the season well. He finished with a touchdown-interception ratio of 8-7. The rookie head coach quarterback tandem led the Eagles to a 7-9 record, finishing last in the division. Super Bowl 52 champions. The Eagles started off the season with a 10-1 record and finished with a 13-3 record in 2017, including a 9-game winning streak. In a Week 14 game against the Los Angeles Rams, starting quarterback Carson Wentz left the game with a torn anterior cruciate ligament, and backup Nick Foles, who had been reassigned in the offseason, took over for the rest of the season. Wentz was considered to have been playing at an MVP level at the time of his injury. Foles' start was a comeback from the 20-7 deficit against the New York Giants, where he scored 4 touchdowns to win 34-29. Foles struggled in the last 2 games of the season against the Oakland Raiders and the Dallas Cowboys, and threw a touchdown and 2 interceptions in those 2 games. The Eagles clinched the number 1 seed and home field advantage throughout the playoffs after the win against Oakland in Week 16. Despite making history by being home underdogs, Foles led the Eagles past the Atlanta Falcons in the divisional round 15-10. In the NFC Championship game, the Eagles dominated the Minnesota Vikings and their league best defense 38-7, again having been betting underdogs in the game. Foles elevated his play and threw for 352 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. The Eagles traveled to Minneapolis to compete in Super Bowl 52, their 3rd attempt at a title, against Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, in a rematch of Super Bowl 39 from 2005. In the second quarter, Philadelphia faced 4th and goal on the 1-yard line with 38 seconds left. Deciding to go for the touchdown, they attempted a trick play similar to one that had failed for the Patriots earlier. It would be the most memorable play of the game as Foles stepped up to the running back position. Clement took a direct snap and pitched the ball to the tight end Trey Burton, who then threw the ball to Foles, who was wide open in the right side of the end zone. Foles caught the ball, making him the first quarterback ever to catch a touchdown pass in a Super Bowl, and the ensuing extra point was good, giving the Eagles a 22-12 lead. The scoring play came to be known as the Philly Special. The Eagles went on to win 41-33, capturing their first Super Bowl Vince Lombardi trophy in a franchise history, and their first championship game since 1960, ending the 3rd longest active championship drought in the NFL at 57 years. Foles won Super Bowl MVP, going 28 for 43 with 373 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 1 interception, and 1 receiving touchdown. Foles became the first backup quarterback to start and win a Super Bowl since his opponent Tom Brady won as the backup for Drew Bledsoe in 2002 Super Bowl 36. The combined 74 points was 1 point shy of the Super Bowl record of 75 set in Super Bowl 29 in 1995. This game marked only the 2nd time in the history of the Super Bowl where the teams combined for 70-plus points. The game also set a record for most yardage by both teams, combined with 1,151 yards, the most for any single game, regular season, or postseason. Before the 2018 season started, many injuries plagued the team, including quarterback Carson Wentz, who was still recovering from an anterior cruciate ligament injury that he had sustained during the previous season. Nick Foles was named the starting quarterback to begin the season and helped the team win their opening game against the Atlanta Falcons 18-12. Wentz returned as the starting quarterback in Week 3 after Foles had led the team to a 1-1 record. Injuries continued to be a major problem throughout the season, especially on defense, as Jalen Mills, Ronald Darby, and Rodney McLeod all suffered season-ending injuries. Wentz suffered a fractured vertebrae on his back after a Week 14 loss to the Dallas Cowboys. And Foles was again named the starter for remainder of the season. The Eagles' 4-6 record after 10 games seemed to give them little chance of making the playoffs, but the team managed to win 5 of their last 6, including upsets over the eventual NFC champion Los Angeles Rams and Houston Texans. The Eagles finished the season with a 9-7 record and made the playoffs as the 6th seed. In the wild card game against the Chicago Bears, Foles threw 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions in a 16-15 win. With 10 seconds left, Bears kicker Cody Parkey missed a potential game-winning field goal that became known in NFL lore as the double doink. This sent the Philadelphia Eagles to an NFC divisional matchup against the New Orleans Saints. The Eagles' offense initially performed well, ending the first quarter with a 14-0 lead. The Eagles would not score again after the Saints' defense rallied, forcing Foles to throw 2 interceptions. The Eagles ended up losing by a score of 20-14, ending their opportunity to repeat as Super Bowl champions. In 2019, the Eagles matched their 9-7 record from 2018. They won 4 straight games against divisional opponents to close the season, clinching the NFC East in Week 17 with a 34-17 win over the New York Giants, and clinched a playoff berth for the 3rd consecutive season. Carson Wentz started his first playoff game in the wild card round against the Seattle Seahawks, but left the game early in the first quarter after suffering a concussion on a controversial helmet-to-helmet hit by Jadeveon Clowney. Backup quarterback Josh McCown finished the game even after suffering a torn hamstring in the second quarter. The Eagles lost to the Seahawks 17-9, ending their season. The Eagles opened the 2020 season with consecutive losses to the Washington football team and Los Angeles Rams. In Week 3, the Eagles tied with the Cincinnati Bengals after controversially punting the ball instead of attempting a potential 64-yard game-winning field goal late in overtime. The decision was widely criticized by sports media and fans as they accused head coach Doug Peterson of settling for a tie, rather than playing for a win. Once again, injuries continued to plague the team as almost every offensive starter had suffered an injury throughout the season, and the team fielded 14 different offensive line combinations in 16 games. The team entered the bye week with a 34-4-1 record and proceeded to lose their next 4 games. During their Week 13 matchup against the Green Bay Packers, rookie quarterback Jalen Hurts entered the game in the 3rd quarter in relief of Wentz after poor play. Hurts would later be named the starting quarterback for the remainder of the season after a career-worst season performance by Wentz. Hurts led the Eagles to a 24-21 victory against the New Orleans Saints in Week 14. This would be the team's last win of the 2020 season as they lost their next 3 games, finishing with a 4-11-1 record and missing the playoffs for the first time in 4 seasons. During the offseason, defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz was announced that he would step down from his position. A day later, linebackers coach Ken Flajole left his position on the team. Doug Peterson met with Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie to discuss the future of the team. Peterson proposed changes to the coaching staff that were described by internal reporters as, quote, underwhelming and out of line with Lurie's vision for the team. On January 11th, 2021, the Eagles announced that they had fired Peterson. In a statement, Lurie described the move as in the best interest of both Peterson and the team. Peterson became just the first head coach to be fired within 3 years of winning a Super Bowl since the Baltimore Colts fired Don McCafferty after the 1972 NFL season. Nick Sirianni years, 2021 to present. The Eagles hired former Indianapolis Colts offensive coordinator Nick Sirianni as their next head coach on January 21st, 2021. During the offseason, the Eagles traded starting quarterback Carson Wentz to the Colts for a 2021 third-round draft pick and a 2022 conditional second-round pick. In doing so, Wentz was reunited with Frank Reich as head coach of the Colts, who served as the Eagles' offensive coordinator for Wentz's first 2 years in Philadelphia, including during their Super Bowl winning season in 2017. The Eagles absorbed a $33.8 million dead cap hit for trading Wentz. During the 2021 NFL Draft, the Eagles selected Heisman Trophy winning wide receiver Devonta Smith with the 10th overall pick, and maneuvered around the draft to gain an extra first-round selection in the 2022 NFL Draft. Smith was a highly touted prospect out of the University of Alabama, and was the first Heisman winner the Eagles drafted in over 50 years. The drafting of Smith also reunited him with Jalen Hurts, his first quarterback at Alabama. After training camp, Hurts was officially named the Eagles' starting quarterback for the 2021 season by head coach Sirianni. After starting the seasons 2-5, the Eagles went 7-3 in their last 10 games, clinching a playoff berth in Week 17 after a victory over the Washington football team, along with a loss by the Minnesota Vikings and a win by the San Francisco 49ers. The Eagles finished the season with the number one rushing offense. It was the best rushing offense since the 1985 Chicago Bears and the best in the franchise history since the 1949 Eagles team. They lost in the wild card game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 31-15. The Eagles went on to win their first 8 games of the 2022 season and earned the top seed in the NFC with a 14-3 overall record. The Eagles matched their franchise best 13-1 start in the 2004 season and secured their third 13-win season in franchise history after 2004 and 2017. With a 22-16 win over the Giants in Week 18, the Eagles won the NFC East for the first time since 2019 and clinched the NFC's number 1 seed for the first time since 2017. The Eagles also reached 14 regular season wins for a franchise record. In the divisional round, the Eagles routed the Giants 38-7 for their first postseason win since 2018. With this win, Philadelphia completed a 3-0 sweep of all 3 games played against New York and advanced to the NFC Championship for the first time since 2017. The Eagles went on to win the NFC Championship against an injury-depleted San Francisco 49ers team 31-7, advancing to Super Bowl 57, their 4th Super Bowl appearance in franchise history, to face the Kansas City Chiefs and former longtime head coach Andy Reid. The Eagles ultimately lost to the Chiefs by a score of 38-35. The Eagles opened the 2023 season as the defending NFC champions. Despite starting the season 10-1, the Eagles failed to equal or improve on their 14-3 record from the previous year. Even in victory, the Eagles had problems with a poor defense the entire season, which was ranked 26 out of 32. 8 of their 11 victories fell within 1 score. None of their aforementioned wins went outside of 2 scores, and their losses to the playoff-bound 49ers and Cowboys were blowouts. The Eagles' late-season woes continued into the playoffs, in which they were eliminated in the wild-card round by the NFC South champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers in a 32-9 blowout loss. The Eagles promptly fired offensive coordinator Brian Johnson and defensive coordinator Sean Desai within a week of their playoff exit. In the subsequent offseason, on March 4, 2024, center Jason Kelce retired after spending his entire 13-year career with the Eagles. On March 10th, defensive tackle Fletcher Cox would also retire after spending 12 seasons with the team. Super Bowl 59 champions. On March 13th, 2024, Saquon Barkley, running back with the New York Giants from 2018 to 2023, became a free agent and signed a 3-year, $37.75 million deal with the Eagles. On September 6, 2024, the Eagles opened their season in Sao Paulo, Brazil. In his debut, Barkley rushed for 109 yards with 2 rushing touchdowns and receiving touchdown in a 34-29 victory over the Green Bay Packers, becoming the first Eagles player to score 3 touchdowns in their debut with the team since Terrell Owens in 2004. Despite a turbulent 2-2 start to the season, the Eagles improved on their 11-6 record from the previous season and won 10 consecutive games for the first time in franchise history. For the 4th straight year and 7th time in the last 8 seasons, the Eagles clinched a playoff berth. Barkley continued his dominance in Week 12 against the Los Angeles Rams, recording 255 rushing yards and 302 total yards. His 255 rushing yards were the 9th most in a single game in NFL history and the most in Eagles history. In Week 17, the Eagles clinched the NFC East by sweeping the Dallas Cowboys for the first time since 2011. Barkley ran for 167 yards and crossed the 2,000-yard mark, becoming only the 9th running back in NFL history to do so, and recording the 2nd most yards of any running back in NFL history in a single season. With their Week 18 win over the New York Giants, the Eagles finished 14-3 for the 2nd time in 3 seasons. The Eagles started the playoffs by defeating the Green Bay Packers 22-10 in the wild card round. In a snowy rematch of their Week 12 meeting, the Eagles again beat the Los Angeles Rams in the divisional round 28-22. In the NFC Championship game, the Eagles dominated their division rival Washington Commanders 55-23, setting the record for the most points scored in a conference championship game. In Super Bowl 59, the Eagles met the Kansas City Chiefs in a rematch of Super Bowl 57 from 2 years earlier, this time defeating the 2-time defending champions by a score of 40-22 and winning their 2nd Super Bowl and 1st since the 2017 season. The Eagles' win prevented the Chiefs from achieving the first ever Super Bowl three-peat. Barkley recorded 57 rushing yards, setting the NFL record for most rushing, 2,504, and scrimmage yards, 2,857, in a full season, surpassing Terrell Davis. Philadelphia quarterback Jalen Hurts threw for 221 yards with 2 touchdowns and rushed for 72 yards and a touchdown, breaking his own record for most rushing yards for a quarterback in Super Bowl with 72. Hurts was named Super Bowl MVP for his performance in the victory. The Eagles finished with 18 total wins, tying the NFL record for the most total wins in a season along with the 1984 San Francisco 49ers, 1985 Chicago Bears, and 2007 New England Patriots. The Eagles' 145 points scored set an NFL record for the most points scored in a postseason. All right, championships. In 1948 and 1949 under coach Greasy Neal, they beat the Chicago Cardinals 7-0 and the Los Angeles Rams 14-0. In 1960, under coach Buck Shaw, they beat the Green Bay Packers 17-13. As a recap, Super Bowl championships, they've won in 2017 under Doug Peterson at Super Bowl 52 against the New England Patriots, scoring 41-33. And in 2024, under coach Nick Sirianni at Super Bowl 59 against the Kansas City Chiefs, winning 40-22. All right, we are going to skip over the NFC championships and the division championships. And let's talk about the logo and uniforms. The choice of an eagle as the team mascot honored the insignia of the New Deal program, the National Recovery Administration, which featured a blue eagle as its insignia. For the 1933 and 34 seasons, the Eagles' colors were light blue and yellow. In 1935, they added green to their uniforms, and for several decades, their colors were Kelly green, silver, and white. In 1954, the Eagles, along with the Baltimore Colts, became the second team ever in the NFL to put a logo on their helmets, with silver wings on a Kelly green helmet. In 1969, the team wore two helmet versions, Kelly green with white wings in road games, and white with Kelly green wings at home. From 1970 to 1973, they wore the white helmets with Kelly green wings exclusively before switching back to Kelly green helmets with silver wings. By 1974, Joseph A. Serrato Jr. designed the silver wings within a white outline, and this style on a Kelly green helmet became the standard for over 2 decades. From 1948 to 1995, the team logo was an eagle in flight carrying a football in its claws, although from 1969 to 1972, the eagle took on a more stylized look. In 1973, the team's name was added below the eagle, returning to its pre-1969 look. Both the logo and uniforms were radically altered in 1996, when the primary Kelly green color was changed to a darker shade, officially described as midnight green. Silver was practically abandoned as uniform pants moved to either white or midnight green. The traditional helmet wings were changed to a primarily white color with silver and black accents. The team's logo combination, the eagle and club name lettering, also changed, with the eagle itself limited to a white, bald eagle head drawn in a less realistic, more cartoon-like style, and the lettering changed from calligraphic to block letters. The eagle head is the only NFL logo to face left, which causes the right side of the logo to present a stylized E. Since 1996, the team made only minor alterations, mostly related to jerseys and pants combinations, worn during specific games. For example, in 1997 against the San Francisco 49ers, the team wore midnight green jerseys and pants for the first of only 2 occasions in team history. The second occasion was in 2002 during the final regular season game at Veterans Stadium, a win over the division rival Washington Redskins. A year later, in the first 2 games of the 2003 season, both home losses to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and New England Patriots, the Eagles wore white jerseys with white pants. After that, the white jerseys along with white pants were worn exclusively during preseason games from 2004 to 2011, with the exception of 2007 and 2010. The 2003 season also saw the first, though subtle, change in the 1996 style uniform. On both white and green jerseys, black shadows and silver trim were added to both the green and white numbering. The stripe on the pants changed from black-green-black to black-silver-green on the white pants, and from a solid black stripe to one stripe of black, another of silver, with one small white stripe in between for the midnight green pants. The 2003 season also saw the team debut black alternate jerseys with a green instead of black shadow on white numbers and silver trim. These black jerseys have been worn for 2 selected home games each season, usually the first home game after a bye week and the season finale. In the 2003 and 2004 regular season home finales, the team wore the green road pants with the black alternate jerseys, but lost both games. Since then, the Eagles have only worn the black jerseys with the white pants. However, due to the special 75th anniversary uniform serving as the alternates for 1 game in 2007, The Eagles could not wear the alternate black jersey that season per league rules at the time. Alternate uniforms were permitted twice per season, but only one can be used. The black jerseys with white pants, however, reappeared for the 2008 Thanksgiving night game against the Arizona Cardinals. From 2006 to 2013, the Eagles have only worn the alternate black jerseys once a season and for the last November home game, but did not use them in 2007, 2010, and 2011. For the 2007 and 2010 seasons, the Eagles used throwback uniforms in place of the black alternates for their anniversary to commemorate past teams. The team also started wearing black cleats exclusively in 2004, although the rule was relaxed by the mid-2010s. To celebrate the team's 75th anniversary, the 2007 uniforms featured a 75th season logo patch on the left shoulder. In addition, the team wore throwback jerseys in a 2007 game against the Detroit Lions. The yellow and blue jerseys, the same colors found on Philadelphia's city flag, are based on those worn by the Philadelphia Eagles in the team's inaugural season, and had been the same colors used by the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets franchise prior to its suspension of operations in 1931. The Eagles beat Detroit 56-21. In the 2010 season against the Green Bay Packers on September 12, 2010, the Eagles wore uniforms similar to the ones that were worn by the 1960 championship team in honor of the 50th anniversary of that team. In weeks 4 and 6 of the 2010 season, the Eagles wore their white jerseys in matchup against the Washington Redskins and Atlanta Falcons, respectively, before reverting to their midnight green jerseys for the rest of their home games. For the 2012 season, Nike took over from Reebok as the NFL's official apparel licensee, but the Eagles decided they would not be adopting Nike's Elite 51 uniform technology. Aside from the Nike logo replacing the Reebok logo, the only other change is the league-wide revision of the NFL shield on the uniform, replacing the NFL equipment logo. Other than that, the uniforms essentially remain unchanged. The Eagles also revived their black alternate jersey and resumed wearing white pants with their white jerseys in the regular season. For the 2014 season, the Eagles officially adopted the Elite 51 style uniform from Nike. However, they only wore the midnight green jersey and pants in the second half of that season due to the difficulty of producing their preferred shade of midnight green. In Week 6 of 2014 against the New York Giants, the team introduced black pants to complement their black jerseys, giving them a blackout uniform set. The Eagles won the game 27-0. The victory was their first shutout in 18 years. In Week 16 of 2016, also against the Giants, the Eagles wore a variation of the all-black look as part of the NFL Color Rush program, but with solid black socks as opposed to black with white sanitary socks of the original look. With the exception of 2017, the Eagles have regularly worn the all-black uniforms at home games against the Giants since the 2014 blackout game. The black jerseys, white pants combination was last seen during a preseason road game against the New England Patriots, after which the black jerseys were paired exclusively with the black pants. In 2018, the Eagles' midnight green pants were not worn at all, marking the first such instance since the 1996 rebrand that the Eagles wore only white pants with their primary white or midnight green jerseys. In Week 6 of the 2017 season, the Eagles debuted an all-white look with white jerseys, white pants, and solid white socks in a road game against the Carolina Panthers. The all-white look began to be utilized full-time as a road uniform set in 2019 thanks to the NFL's decision to allow teams to wear solid color socks as an alternate look. During Week 10 of the 2021 season, the Eagles paired their white uniforms with the alternate black pants against the Denver Broncos, marking the first time the black pants were paired with a different colored uniform. In 2022, the Eagles unveiled a new black alternate helmet, which would be worn alongside the all-black uniform. In addition, the team announced that throwback Kelly green uniforms would return as an alternate uniform starting in the 2023 season. The team originally intended to release the uniforms in 2022, but due to production supply issues, the Eagles elected to delay its release to the 2023 season. The Eagles returned to wearing Kelly green uniforms as the team's alternate, with their debut in a Week 7 win versus the Miami Dolphins. With the Kelly green helmet becoming the team's one alternate, the black helmet was temporarily shelved, and the Eagles returned to wearing their primary midnight green helmets with the all-black uniform. Back in 2022, it was released to the media that the Eagles would be changing their wordmark to a more modernized design. Due to supply chain issues, the new wordmark was not able to be applied to the uniforms until the 2024 season. In addition, the black helmet was brought back as the team's third helmet option, while the NFL only allowed teams with new designs to adopt a third helmet in 2024. The Eagles' minor change of jersey wordmark counted as such. The black helmets were worn with white jerseys, black pants, and white socks for the team's Week 1 game in Sao Paulo, Brazil against the Green Bay Packers. Rivalries. Divisional. Dallas Cowboys. The Eagles and Dallas Cowboys rivalry has been listed among the best and most acrimonious in the NFL. The Eagles won the first game in this rivalry 27-25 on September 30th, 1960. Dallas leads the all-time series 74-58 as of the 2024 season, but in recent years the series has been close, with each team winning 12 games since 2006. There is considerable hostility between the two teams' fan bases, with incidents such as the 1989 Bounty Bowl. The rivalry has even spilled over into draft weekend, with Cowboys legend Drew Pearson and Eagles legend David Akers exchanging insults at the opposing franchise in 2017 and 2018, respectively. New York Giants. The Eagles' rivalry with the New York Giants began in 1933 with the founding of the Eagles, and slowly strengthened when both teams came to relative prominence in the 1940s and 1950s. The two teams have played in the same division in the NFL every year since 1933. The ferocity of the rivalry can also be attributed to the geographic New York-Philadelphia rivalry, which is mirrored in Major League Baseball's Mets-Phillies and the NHL's Flyers-Rangers and Flyers-Islanders. It is ranked by the NFL Network as one of the greatest rivalries of all time. Sports Illustrated ranks it as the fourth best NFL rivalry of all time. And according to ESPN, it is one of the fiercest and most well-known rivalries in the football community. As of the 2024 season, the Eagles lead the all-time series 96-89-2. Washington Commanders. While not as big as the rivalries with the Giants and Cowboys, the Eagles' historical rivalry with the Washington Redskins, Washington football team, Washington Commanders has still been fierce. Although the two franchises played in the same division in the Eagles' inaugural 1933 season, their first meeting did not take place until October 21st, 1934, during Washington's first year under the Boston Redskins moniker. The Redskins defeated the Eagles 6-0 at Fenway Park. Washington currently leads the all-time series 90-87-6. Since 2010, the rivalry has been very even overall, with the Eagles winning 19 of the last 31 matchups. Conference. Atlanta Falcons. The Eagles lead the Atlanta Falcons 21-16-1 with a 3-1 lead in playoff games. The rivalry first emerged after the Falcons upset the Eagles in the 1978 wildcard round 14-13, and only intensified further during the 2000s thanks to the rivalry between prominent dual-threat quarterbacks Donovan McNabb and Michael Vick. Recently, the Eagles' path to winning Super Bowl 52 included a 2017 divisional round victory over the Falcons. Interconference. Pittsburgh Steelers. The Eagles and the Pittsburgh Steelers are both located in Pennsylvania and began to play in 1933. From that season through 1966, this was a major rivalry for both teams, as both were part of the same division. In 1967, they were placed in separate divisions but remained in the same conference for 3 years. In 1970, the Steelers, along with the Cleveland Browns and Baltimore Colts, moved to the American Football Conference, while the Eagles stayed with the rest of the old-line NFL teams in the National Football Conference. As a result, the Eagles and Steelers no longer played each other every year. Instead, they're scheduled to meet once every 4 years in the regular season. The most recent meeting was in 2024 at Lincoln Financial Field, with the Eagles winning 27-13. The Steelers have lost 11 straight games on the road against the Eagles dating back to 1966, which was also the start of the Super Bowl era. As of 2024, the Eagles lead the all-time series 50-29-3. All right, we then have our list of Philadelphia Eagles players. As always, the link for the article will be down in the description. Please use that if you want to go and see the actual current list of players. And, all right, awards and honors. Retired numbers. Number 5, Donovan McNabb, quarterback. Number 15, Steve Van Buren, halfback. Number 20, Brian Dawkins, safety. Number 40, Tom Brookhiser, cornerback. Number 44, Pete Retzlaff, flanker and tight end. Number 60, Chuck Bednarik, linebacker and center. Number 70, Al Wistert, offensive tackle. Number 92, Reggie White, defensive end. And number 99, Jerome Brown, defensive tackle. The last two being awarded posthumously. Let's see. Also, despite not being retired, the Eagles have not issued out Randall Cunningham's number 12 since he left the Eagles in 1995. LaShawn McCoy's number 25 since he left the team in 2015, or Nick Foles' number 9 since he left the team in 2019. All right. Pro Football Hall of Famers. As of 2025, 14 individuals who spent a significant part of their career with the Eagles have been inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Number 15, Steve Van Buren, halfback. Number 60, Chuck Bednarik, corner, center, and linebacker. Number 53, Alec Wojciechowicz. I apologize if I say any names incorrectly. Center and defensive tackle. Pete Pihos, tight end, defensive end. Norm Van Brocklin, quarterback. Number 56, Bill Hewitt, defensive end and fullback. Number 33, Ollie Matson, running back. Number 54, Jim Ringo, center. Number 9, Sonny Jurgensen, quarterback. Number 98 and 89, Mike Ditka at tight end. Number 86, Bud Grant, wide receiver and defensive end. Number 25, Tommy McDonald, wide receiver. Number 80, James Lofton, wide receiver. Number 76, Bob Brown, offensive tackle. Number 92, Reggie White, defensive end. Number 85, Art Monk, wide receiver. Number 95, Richard Dent, defensive end. Number 80, Chris Carter, wide receiver. Number 87, Claude Humphrey, defensive end. Number 20, Brian Dawkins, safety. Number 81, Terrell Owens, wide receiver. Number 17, Harold Carmichael, wide receiver. Number 21, Eric Allen, cornerback. Also, coaches and executives, Burt Bell, owner and founder. Earl Greasy Neal, head coach, and Dick Vermeil, head coach. Eagles Hall of Fame. In 1987, the Eagles Honor Roll was established. Every Eagles player who had been elected into the Pro Football Hall of Fame at that point was among the inaugural induction class. By 2012, the Honor Roll had been retitled as the Eagles Hall of Fame. Players are considered for induction 3 years after their retirement from the NFL, and there have been 52 inductees into the Eagles Hall of Fame as of 2024. All right, we are going to skip reading all of this. It's going to be a lot of repeat names from up above, and you can click the link and check that out. Same for the 75th anniversary team. And, all right. I'm also going to skip off the franchise records because this article has a lot more than is typical. All right, we then have our list of staff. Again, check the article for the current list of staff. All right, stadium history. Baker Bowl, 1933 to 1935. The Eagles first played their games at the Baker Bowl. The Baker Bowl, much like other NFL stadiums at the time, was another baseball field. The locals nearby called Baker the Cigar Box or Bandbox. Philadelphia Municipal Stadium, 1936 to 1939. Municipal was eventually named JFK Stadium in 1964 after his assassination, but the Eagles were long gone by then. They needed more rooms, so they moved to one of the most unique stadiums, Shibby Park. Shibby Park, 1940 to 1957. In 1948, the Eagles won their first title in Shibby during a monumental snowstorm. The style of Shibby, French Renaissance. The MLB played there as well. The Eagles returned to Municipal in just one season, and in 1943, the Eagles had to merge with the Pittsburgh Steelers due to World War II, so they played some games at Forbes Field. Franklin Field, 1958 to 1970. Franklin was another stadium where the Eagles were champions in. The Eagles stayed at Franklin for 20 years and was the site of the infamous fans booing Santa scene in 1968. Veterans Stadium, 1971-2002. Veterans Stadium was given its name to honor vets of all wars. The stadium featured 7 levels. The place was legendary for having Eagles Corp. An actual judge was there in the stadium to deal with fans who were arrested during the game, and one day they had a mice infestation that was so bad they hired cats to clean it up. Lincoln Financial Field, 2003 to present. Sylvester Stallone was there during the opening of the stadium during the Eagles' first 2003 game. It also included fireworks and a loud, epic crowd. Destruction. The Vet met its demise in 2002 after it imploded. All right, we then have a list of radio and television. I'm going to skip this and also for future articles. All right, training camp. The Eagles previously held their pre-season training camp from the end of July through mid-August each year at Lehigh University in Bethlehem in the Lehigh Valley. In 2013, with the addition of head coach Chip Kelly, the Eagles moved their training camp to the NovaCare complex in Philadelphia. Training camps were previously held at Chestnut Hill Academy in 1935, St. Joseph's University in 1939 and 1943, Saranac Lake from 1946 to 1948, Hershey from 1951 to 1967, Albright College from 1968 to 1972, Widener University from 1973 to 1979, and Westchester University from 1980 to 1995. Fight song. The fight song, Fly Eagles Fly, is heard during Eagles home games after touchdown and before the team is introduced prior to kickoff. Fly Eagles Fly was written in 1955, making it one of the oldest active fight songs in the NFL. The only ones that surpass it are Bear Down for the Chicago Bears, written in 1941, Go You Cleveland Browns, written in 1946, Hail to the Redskins, 1938, and Go You Packers Go, 1931. Eagles cheerleaders. The Eagles have their own cheerleading squad, which performs a variety of dance routines for the fans and the Eagles on the sideline. The squad also releases a swimsuit calendar each year and is the first squad in the league to release the calendar on the Android and iOS mobile systems. Fans. Devotion. Although the method may vary, studies that attempt to rank the 32 fan bases in the NFL consistently place Eagles fans among the best in the league, noting their, quote, unmatched fervor, unquote. American City Business Journals, which conducts a regular study to determine the most loyal fans in the NFL, ranked Eagles fans third in both 1999 and 2006. The 2006 study called Eagles fans incredibly loyal, noting that they filled 99.8% of the seats in the stadium over the previous decade. Forbes placed the Eagles fans first in its 2008 survey, which was based on the correlation between team performance and fan attendance. ESPN.com placed the Eagles fans fourth in the league in its 2008 survey, citing the connection between the team's performance and the mood of the city. The last home game that was blacked out on television in the Philadelphia market, as a result of not being sold out, was against the Arizona Cardinals on Sunday, September 12, 1999, which was Andy Reid's first home game as new head coach of the Eagles. The studies note that whether the Eagles have winning or losing teams, fans can be counted on to pack the stadium each year. As of August 2008, the team had sold out 71 consecutive games, and 70,000 additional fans were on the Eagles' waiting list for season tickets. Despite finishing with a 6-10 record in the 2005 season, the Eagles ranked second in the NFL in merchandise sales, and single-game tickets for the next season were sold out minutes after phone and internet lines opened. Eagles fans have also been known to chant the famous Eagles, or E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles, at Flyers, Phillies, and 76ers games when the team is getting blown out late in the game and a loss is inevitable, signifying their displeasure with the given team's performance and that they are instead putting their hope into the Eagles. Occasionally, traveling Phillies fans may even chant this when the Phillies appear to be a few innings away from an inevitable win on the road as a way to celebrate their team and Philadelphia as a whole. The Eagles and Phillies were both the main tenants at Veterans Stadium before Lincoln Financial Field and Citizens Bank Park were built. Notable famous fans of the Eagles include actors Bradley Cooper, Rob McElhenney, and Miles Teller, actor and comedian Kevin Hart, Jeopardy champion Brad Rutter, journalist Jake Tapper and Jesse Waters, morning talk show host Kelly Ripa, TV personality Jim Cramer, and soccer star Carly Lloyd, the latter of whom also appeared at a joint practice of the Eagles with the Baltimore Ravens in 2019, where she nailed a 55-yard field goal attempt. 1 week later, during an international friendly pitting the United States against Portugal at Lincoln Financial Field, Lloyd celebrated scoring a goal by doing the Eagles chant. The United States ultimately won that match 4-0. The Eagles also have famous fans from outside the United States, which include Australian professional wrestler Grayson Waller, who currently wrestles in American pro wrestling promotion WWE. WrestleMania 40, which was held at Lincoln Financial Field itself, saw Waller don Eagles-themed ring gear. And Andrea Bain, a Canadian talk show host best known for her work as one of the four hosts of the lifestyle talk show The Social on Canadian network CTV. Bad behavior. Along with their fierce devotion, Eagles fans have a reputation for bad behavior and sports-related violence, especially when the team plays its rivals. One of the most famous incidents occurred in the 1968 season when fans of struggling 2-11 Eagles pelted snowballs at an incarnation of Santa Claus during a halftime Christmas celebration. In 2006, HarperCollins published If Football's a Religion, Why Don't We Have a Prayer?, a book by Jerry Longman, in which he describes the fans of the 700 level at Veterans Stadium as having a reputation for hostile taunting, fighting, public urination, and general strangeness. In a 1997 game against the San Francisco 49ers in Philadelphia, featured so many incidents that beginning at the following home game, the Eagles appointed a judge, Seamus McCaffrey, to preside over a temporary courtroom at the stadium. 20 suspects came before him that day. Fan behavior improved after the teams moved to Lincoln Financial Field, and Eagles court ended in December 2003. During a January 2025 home playoff game against the Green Bay Packers, an Eagles fan shouted obscenities at a woman wearing Packers gear. The incident went viral online, leading to the Eagles fan losing his job and receiving a ban from the stadium. In popular culture, the 1976 Philadelphia Eagles season was the subject of the movie Invincible. The movie stars Mark Wahlberg and Vince Papale, a part-time school teacher and diehard Eagles fan who became an Eagles player. The film differs slightly from true events, as the selection process was invitation only, and Papale had at least some previous playing experience. The film's Silver Linings Playbook highlights the 2008 Philadelphia Eagles season, and the novel mentions the 2006 team. The comedy television series It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia makes several references to the Philadelphia Eagles, most notably on Season 3, Episode 2, The Gang Gets Invincible, a reference to the 2006 Wahlberg film. All right, there's also a list, an article for a list of Philadelphia Eagles seasons, and they also recommend seeing Forbes' list of the most valuable sports teams, South Philadelphia Sports Complex, and Sports in Philadelphia. So, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like the video, subscribe to the channel so that you get new videos every day. And as always, drop a comment down below and let us know what article you'd like to see next. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.